What is going on, my dudes and dudettes? It's Sean here with S&S Serpentarium, and today we're just going to have a little chat about things I'm personally looking for when buying a Super Dwarf retic. As always guys, if you're new around here, make sure you're subscribed, smash that notifications bell. I upload often. It's every day at the moment, but that's likely to be changed when I go back to uni, but it's still going to be more regular than most snake YouTubers. So just make sure you're notified of when my videos are out. So just to get straight into it then guys, I'm chilling with my Royal here. She's actually a double het albino pied. She's nice and chunky. She's been off food for a little while, but she's back on it now. I've only just, I haven't long had her. She was in quarantine over my friend's house for a month or 5 weeks. And then when I got her home, luckily she took first feed. So I was really happy with that. But getting back on topic then. Retics. Now, Super Dwarf retics is a bit of a complicated topic. We'll just put her here and hopefully she stays still this time. Right, yeah, it's a bit of a complicated topic really, Super Dwarf retics. There are lots of different terms flying around, different people saying different things about their eventual size. But what I'm personally looking for when I'm buying a retic is I want to buy it off someone that knows what locality retic they've actually come from. I want to know what percentage of the parents are, how big they are. That's very important, especially the size of the mother. And even if you can get the information, the size of the grandparents as well, especially the grandmother, that's quite key on both sides there. It would be good to have unrelated grandparents to each other. That'd be quite key for me. So therefore the parents are unrelated. So then you've got different Super Dwarf blood going into it. I'd want to know the age of the parents as well. That's quite key. It's very different having a 5-year-old Super Dwarf that's small to a 12-year-old Super Dwarf that's small. But at the same time, it'd be good to know if it is a young Super Dwarf at like 5 years old and it has bred and it is only 6 foot, then that is a good sign really for me, because it just shows that even though it's ready to breed, it is actually healthy. It's not being power fed at all because it's only 6 foot. It's been given enough time to breed, but also it hasn't been stunted at all to keep it small, because otherwise it wouldn't be healthy enough to breed at 5 years old. Things I'd watch out for is fake dwarfs. There's a lot of people selling dwarfs when they're not really dwarfs. Or, you know, they'll say it's a Super Dwarf when it's actually, you know, 50% dwarf. The difference between a dwarf and a Super Dwarf is quite massive. There are localities of dwarfs that get almost as big as the mainlands. You know, they still get 15-16 foot. So you need to really pay attention to that. So there are a lot of pitfalls really to look out for. If it's a morph, guys, just bear in mind, if anyone's telling you that it is a pure Super Dwarf, they're lying to you. If it's a morph, it's a percentage Super Dwarf, not a pure one. The higher percentage, generally, you're going to get smaller retics, but there's a caveat to that. The parent size does matter big time with that, and how many generations in they actually are. So if you find a Super Dwarf retic that is 88%, but the parents are 12 foot, then that snake is likely to get the 12 foot. But if you find a Super Dwarf that's only 62% and the parents are 6 foot, then that snake is not likely to get much bigger than 6 foot. So there's a few things to keep in mind. If the Super Dwarf is, say, 5 or 10 generations in, which is unlikely at this stage, but if it is, then it's more likely to stay small then, because it's been bred back so many times to smaller parents. and a lot of people are actually selectively breeding them to be bred back to get smaller and smaller generations as time goes on. So that is worth bearing in mind. There are a few localities, as I've said, but the ones you want to look out for the most are Karompa, Kalatoa, and Madu. They're the smallest, I believe, off the top of my head. There are some bigger dwarfs and super dwarfs, as I've said, so you need to watch out for that, definitely. If it's a pet, which I'm hoping it is, what you want to do then is just feed it. You want to feed it nothing bigger than its body width, and you want to do that every 7 to 10 days when it's under a year old, and when it's over a year old, you want to do that every other week, just to keep it nice and small. And what you want to try to do as well is mimic the sort of prey items that those islands actually have and when they're available. So those islands typically they have smaller prey items. Most of what they eat is actually birds on those islands. There's not a great deal of rodents. It is mostly birds from what I understand. And them being birds, then it tends to be quite seasonal. So they tend to get a lot more food in the summer than what they do in the winter. So if you feed them like that, then the chances are it'll be better for the breeding cycles for one thing. But also it's going to be better to keep it small because those dwarf genetics will sort of kick in a little bit more, if that makes any sense. But feeding is a big thing. If you stuff a super dwarf full of food, then it is going to get larger. If you feed it like a mainland, it will get close to being a mainland. So that's definitely worth bearing in mind. But I would always go with the reputable breeder. Pay a little bit more to have someone that knows what they're talking about. I definitely wouldn't recommend buying it from a shop unless the shop has actually bred the snake themselves with retics, because they could get any Tom, Joe, Dick or Harry coming in saying it's a super dwarf when it's really not. It's a mainland, and then you're gonna have massive problems then when you when you've got a 15-foot snake and you've only prepared for an 8-footer. But having said that, guys, okay, you need to be prepared when you buy in these snakes that it could get larger than advertised. There's no guarantee that it will actually stay small unless you go for a pure locality, but again, those can be hard to track down. So snake hit over a can there. Yeah, so it's just something to think about, guys. This is just a bit of food for thought here. But you may be better off going with the pure locality over a morph. But they can still, some of them can still get quite large. But yeah, the main things to look out for really is just small parents will make small offspring. And the percentage isn't 100% definite what the size is going to be, because it depends on the locality. Feeding is going to be a big factor in how big these snakes actually get. And go with a trusted breeder. That's going to be the summary for today's video, really. Yeah, so if you've enjoyed the video, guys, make sure you drop us a like, subscribe, smash the notifications icon as always. And I'll see you in the next one. Thanks, guys. Yeah, good girl. Yeah, as I've said before, this girl tends to only eat mice. So I'm just going to give her 2 mice and try her on a chick as well today, just to keep that weight going up. And I'll offer a rat then next Sunday. So hopefully that'll all work out. But I'll just pause it here now, let her swallow the rat, the mouse, and then offer the next one.